Hi there. My name is Tanya Finks. I am a Gallup certified strengths coach, and I help people, partners, and nonprofit leadership teams live, love, and work with greater clarity, intention, and alignment with purpose. There are three things that I'm sort of an evangelist about right now. One is bullet journaling. I think bullet journaling is amazing. The second is blogging and creating online business. I sort of feel like everybody has a voice and everyone should have a blog. That's a conversation for another day. And the third thing is the CliftonStrengths Assessment. So what's so great about the CliftonStrengths Assessment? I was introduced to the CliftonStrengths Assessment. I'm currently at the tail end of an evidence-based coaching program. And in my first term, my professor and one of the other students in my cohort were interacting about the students' strengths. And it was like they were speaking a language that only the two of them understood, but they were able to talk about her preferences and her tendencies and how she was producing her results somewhat precisely. They were able to, create great understanding between the two of them. And again, it was like a language that only they understood. And I had to know more. And so I completed the strengths assessment, the CliftonStrengths Assessment for myself. It turns out that one of my colleagues at work had also been sharing with me about the CliftonStrengths Finder, as it's sometimes referred to, and it just not in a very compelling way. And so, I thought, oh, that's nice. He was saying, it makes so much sense to focus on your strengths rather than focusing on your weaknesses. And, my response was, yeah, that makes sense. Which I suspect most people's response is when they hear about the CliftonStrengths. But when I heard that my professor and the other student in my cohort interacting about her strengths, it really piqued my curiosity. So I did the assessment for myself, and doing the assessment was eye-opening. I was really, I was surprised that the assessment itself would produce results that really spoke to what I know of myself, but also more than what I know of myself. I was sort of struck by how they were speaking, how the reports were speaking language that I didn't even know described to me, if that makes any sense. Taking the exam, taking the assessment, I was really impressed with the method, how the test itself is administered. So there are 177 paired statements that you're responding to. And so paired statements, you're given a situation and you have to choose one statement or the other. Would you do this, or would you do this? Or would you think this, or would you think this? And you only have 20 seconds to answer each paired statement. And so the brilliance of it from my perspective is that with 20 seconds to answer each question, you don't have a lot of time to think about the response. It's really wanting to get to your instinctual response. So that limited time, you're not able to say, well, this is how I'd like to be seen. You're really sort of trying to figure out, well, what would I do? How would I respond? And if you don't answer in the 20 seconds, it moves on to the next question. And, if you're doing an assessment, trying to get results about who you are, you don't want to not answer questions. So you're really motivated to come up with a response. And so the end result is less about how you'd like to be seen, but actually about how you really navigate the world. So that was one thing that I was impressed by right away. So I was going to be rolling the assessment out to a department of 150 people, potentially. And so I wanted to be certified in the model so that it would be meaningful, not just a, sort of cool parlor trick where you answer some questions and it figures out how you think. And in getting certified, my results got more and more meaningful. The more time I spent with the results, the more sort of different cuts at the results, the more I understood about what each strength says about how I'm motivated, how I'm driven, what I'm excited about, what I need, what I don't like, how I succeed and how I don't naturally succeed. The more I learned about all of that, it really deepened my understanding of myself. And it really made sense for me of why I thrive in certain situations, and even more meaningful, why I don't thrive in certain situations. And I stopped seeing my lack of thriving in certain situations as a shortcoming on my part. It actually makes sense given how I navigate the world. And that was extremely powerful for me to understand. So that's one of the things that's sort of amazing from my perspective about the entire model. And so, as I've been rolling it out in my department, I've had some people who have taken the test and said, oh, that's really cool. I like the cosmopolitan surveys that I've taken all my life, and sort of related to it on a very surface level. But as we talked about the results and I sort of recreated for them the kind of experience I had in, getting a deeper understanding of what those results are really telling me, almost without exception, and I had about 80 conversations, almost without exception, people were really able to see themselves not just in a work context, but in a personal context, in their personal relationships, how they parent, how they are in their relationship at home, and definitely how they are at work. And so that was really meaningful for people. The other thing that I find really meaningful in my day job, I'm a training and development manager. And one of the things that I found really sort of fascinating and encouraging is that with context about how to think about the results, people were able to identify opportunities for development as well, which is unique, I think, in a model. I think, in my experience, people have a lot of blind spots. I have a lot of blind spots. I know that. I've had some of my blind spots revealed. That's how I know that I have them. But it's often, they're blind spots for a reason. They're not easy to see, even when someone else points them out. And actually, when someone else points them out, we sort of don't buy it. But when we're able to see them for ourselves, that's when they're really meaningful and we're able to do something with it. And my experience with the CliftonStrengths Assessment and the top 5 talent themes, as they're referred to, my experience has been that people are able to start to see their own blind spots, which is really sort of incredible. And then the other thing that I really love about it is that Gallup, the company that created the assessment, they make your top 5 strengths, or talent themes as they're really referred to, they make your top 5 strengths available for a very reasonable price. It's only $15, which makes it extremely accessible. So I find it, so in addition to the richness of the model and how much value is available out of having access to your top 5 strengths, it's also really accessible financially. It's really available to anyone. And so I'm sort of an evangelist. I really think everyone should have their strengths. Now, the one downside is that without more context, without really being able to explore what your talent themes say about you and, sort of help figuring that out, the assessment can sort of feel like, or the result can sort of feel like a cool, horoscope reading. So it really does require some support. A lot of people are introduced to the CliftonStrengths through their employer. Even then, though, a lot of employers don't invest in that next step, helping you understand what the results mean. That takes either bringing in a consultant or having someone who is certified who can facilitate that journey. So that, I think that really is a barrier, and one of the reasons that Gallup is really working to certify coaches so that coaches can facilitate that deeper understanding. So what I do, or one of the things that I do, because I also work one-on-one with people, but what I think is really helpful is to have a means to start that exploration yourself. To, if you're not yet in a place where you're looking for one-on-one coaching to deepen your understanding, but you've done the assessment. I've encountered a number of people, because I'm so passionate about it, I talk about it a lot. And I've encountered a number of people who were exposed to the CliftonStrengths. They have their strengths profile. They've had it for years, and it just hasn't meant anything to them. But once we've had a conversation about it, they're like, oh my gosh, this is exactly who I am. This explains so much. I'm having all of these insights all of the time. And so that's part of what I try to provide. I try to provide self-coaching, if you will, whether that's, activities that you can work on by yourself to deepen your understanding of self, but also with fun videos on my YouTube channel. So, if I've piqued your interest at all, I hope that you will subscribe to my channel and come back to check out some of the ways I help you explore your talent themes. One of the ways I do that is by modeling my own awareness of my strengths. So in my bullet journal videos, yes, there will be bullet journal videos because, as I said, I am an evangelist for the bullet journal. In my bullet journal videos, I model strengths awareness. And so where how I'm managing my life really is a function of my talent themes or my strengths, I try to make that explicit. And so that is one way that I help build knowledge. And then very soon I'll be starting a series called Dynamic Dating, where I talk about how your natural talents might be influencing your romantic relationships. And I think that's going to be a really fun series as well. If you don't already have your signature themes report or your top 5 strengths from Gallup, there are a couple ways that I would recommend getting access to that. You can take the assessment at the Gallup's Strength Center, which I will link to in the description. As I said, the cost of the assessment is $15 US. And when you take the assessment, you'll gain access to some reports and tools to help you understand it. And you'll also have access to a downloadable ebook, Strengths Finder 2.0, which shares a little bit of information about the model and also information about each of the 34 strengths. So that's one way. Another way, if you prefer a hardcover book rather than a downloadable ebook, you can buy Strengths Finder 2.0 on Amazon. It's a little less than $15 on Amazon. And each Strengths Finder 2.0 hardcover book comes with a code to take the assessment and get your top 5 strengths. So I would recommend, if you don't already have your strengths, doing one of those things to get your strengths. After you've gotten your strengths, another thing that I would recommend is checking out my primer on the CliftonStrengths model. It just gives you a little bit more context on how to think about your your talent themes, how to make the most of them, sort of what next. And then the final thing I would recommend is to sign up for my top 5 in 5, 5 days to understanding your top 5 talent themes. It's a free email course, 5 daily emails with information on how to make the most of the information you've gotten from the reports provided by Gallup. So I hope you found this information interesting. I hope you are now totally curious about getting your talent themes or your top 5 strengths. Or if you already have them, I hope you're now thinking about picking them back up and continuing your journey to understanding your strengths. Again, if you found this information interesting, I hope that you will like this video and subscribe to my channel, and I hope to see you again soon. Take great care.